Hello there, my name is James Baldwin and welcome to another episode of Extreme E's official podcast, Off Track. In this episode, we preview the Jurassic X-Prix. And I'm joined, as always, by my friend and yours. It's Michael Laminato, and we're on the ground in the UK, yes, Michael.
On the ground in the mud. In the mud, not like a figurative thing, not a bad thing. It's just that there's a lot of mud everywhere. It's all over my shoes. I just discovered it's on the back of my pants somehow.
Yes, it's been there all day, I've been noticing.
Oh, have you? Okay, good. Thanks for telling me.
As well.
So much for the my friend and yours part of this show.
That's so a true friend.
About that. Yeah, true friends.
Mate, it is an absolute pleasure, of course, to be here for the Jurassic X-Prix. Well worth the very long flight to get here as well.
Although it was very long.
But been fantastic, of course, to chat with so many wonderful people in the world of Extreme E. We're very privileged on this podcast. You'll hear a little bit later on, of course, from our friends Jenny Gow and Andrew Coley, as well as Timo Scheider and Tamara Molinaro, of course. But so much to talk about, Michael. The championship is right down to the wire yet again. If you thought that 2021 was done with close championships, you were wrong.
Yeah, well, yes. Why did you think that? What a foolish thing to think. How dare you? Come on, have some respect. It is, and this is probably one of the last, I wish I'd looked this up before we got on the podcast, one of the last championships to be decided of the year, you'd have to think, considering the date.
Surely.
So we're going out with a bang, is what I'm saying. The bang may be car on tree, car on mud, hard to know. But absolutely right, 16 points separating the top two in the championship. Rosberg X-Racing from X44. There is 42 points to play for, so points certainly in favour of RXR. But considering, of course, we've got points Saturday, Sunday, plus the Continental Super Sector, there's a lot of points still to be won. And considering the unpredictability of the series we've had so far, and look, we'll talk about the track in a second. Of course, we'll hear from Timo later on and Tamara on the course, how it's shaping up. This does feel to me like one of those unpredictable weekends. Like just the state of this circuit is very wacky.
There is an absolutely mega send, and it ties in with my official line, Extreme Yeet.
Yes.
And I can't wait to apply it. I'm going to wear it out for the end of the season. But it is a huge, huge jump, and we've just seen Sarah Price absolutely send it. She yeeted herself almost to the moon, it seems. Incredible stuff there from her. But, mate, so much to play for. Look, we're going to speak a little bit about all of the teams, of course, and we're going to listen to some of the drivers as well in terms of what they thought after their free practice session here in Dorset. But it's also worth mentioning, I think, too, a little bit of the environmental side as well. Of course, Extreme E is all about bringing awareness to climate change, sustainability and diversity, as we've spoken about many, many times. But we were privileged enough, Michael, on Thursday to check in with the project around building beaver houses, which I wasn't expecting to be doing at all.
I never thought I would use the word free living beaver in my life, but here we are. It's a beautiful thing. It's the first day we got off the plane. We're talking about free living beavers, which is incredible to think. And it was really interesting, though, because this was the idea of this race in particular. It can sort of be summed up. We're talking about the lack of biodiversity, but that directly being linked to urbanization. And I think what's really interesting, I know we had a race in Italy, which is also, let's say, obviously a pretty urbanized nation, but we've tended to approach a lot of the environmental issues in Extreme E as being somehow removed from society a little bit, like the effects of society, but a little bit somewhere else. This is really bringing it home because obviously we're in the UK, relatively densely populated island. We're near a whole bunch of southern towns in the UK where we're talking about this. And we're really looking directly at, well, this land has been urbanized and cultivated for farming or whatever the specific thing may be, exactly where it is. And for generations, in some cases centuries, there has been this effect. So it's not simply just a matter of the climate change challenge we're facing now in the last decades is a long-term degradation of the land. And it's only now in some places that we're now thinking, well, we've got to correct this. And that's where the free living beavers come in. One of many aspects.
And that's probably worth going and checking out some content around that rather than just trying to picture what a beaver house looks like.
Picture it first.
Okay,
because, yes, as we discovered, actually, it was Christine GZ when we were building the hamster. Well, no, not hamsters.
Great.
She, because the translation was not perfect, assumed that we were building a house for hamsters. Massive hamsters.
Big hamsters with tennis rackets on their back, yes.
They only live in Scotland at the moment.
Yes.
It's just the way they do things in Scotland.
But it was great. And also, I mean, our friends with the National Trust too, being able to partner with them from an Extreme E point of view is fantastic too. Of course, there's fantastic work that's going on in that space. And of course, they're getting the license to reintroduce beavers after 400 years.
Big hamsters
Back into the environment down here in Dorset. It is incredibly beautiful coastline as well. As I said, some fantastic content to come out of it, least of one which is Christine GZ figuring out that gumboots or wellies actually are waterproof and you can stand in water and your feet don't get wet. That was pretty exceptional content
I wish
to
I
witness.
had some more Wellingtons on me, to be honest.
Yes, don't we all?
Having attempted to undertake a track walk.
Don't we all?
Rosberg X Racing in the lead of the title hunt by 16 points, which is bordering on commanding as a title lead, but certainly not impossible to overcome if you're X44. We can do a little bit of maths. There are 42 points available over the course of a weekend, so 16 points is the deficit that needs to be made up. X44, we know, rapid in qualifying. They've taken out every top qualifying spot over the course of the whole season. So let's say they have a perfect qualifying. If they can win the race as well, then we can start to put pressure on Rosberg X Racing and X44, because then they're looking at, they need a double podium, double third to win the title. If they finish one session qualifying on the race off the podium, then we start to get really close. So it is certainly in Rosberg X Racing's ballpark here, but certainly not out of the question considering the state of the track, as we've seen. This could be a random weekend.
And random weekends are what we're here for, to be honest. And Extreme E, as we've said many, many times, the absolute skill up and down this paddock is phenomenal. And you look at Abt Cooper, of course, they getting a podium last time out. You look at JBXE, who have been hovering around the positions for a very long time. Andretti United have been incredibly quick. Of course, they won in Greenland. And of course, further down the field, Veloce Racing are very much due for some good luck. So are Segi TV Chip Ganassi Racing, so is the Excite Energy team. So many wonderful drivers in all of these different cars, and all of them have the ability to really upset Rosberg X Racing's sort of easy championship. Of course, it is theirs to lose, absolutely. And as you said, in terms of top qualifying, X44 just can't be stopped. And it makes a lot of sense because you look at those two drivers and you have to say to yourself, 100% you guys are the quickest here, no doubt.
Yes, Sebastian Loeb, Christina Gutierrez absolutely killing it so far. But Molly Taylor, Johan Kristoffersen have just been riding so well on Sundays, and that's the question whether or not continues. And you raise a good point, because what I really love about any championship, and we're not at a dead rubber here, obviously, because we're talking about how the championship's still alive, but dead rubber races when everyone's just out there having a crack, for want of a better phrase, because there's no pressure on any title winners or anything like that. There's only really pressure on two teams here. Yes, there's a battle for third, but with all due respect, people like finishing third, but they don't care that much. They want to win, which means they're out here just to win. Every team's out here just to make the most of this last round of the championship. And that means the stakes are different for everyone else and then the top two. And that always introduces this element of sort of unpredictability. There's a little bit of tension then between all the other teams as well, because maybe you just want a really clear run if you're RXR, if you're looking to close out the final, but you've got, who knows, Veloce in there who's just having a go. Veloce fundamentally with a new driver lineup this weekend, considering we haven't seen Jamie Chadwick for a couple of rounds now, and Lance Woolridge is brand new to the series. How are they going to impact on this weekend? Because they're going to just be out there essentially having a good time.
Absolutely. And of course, for JBXE in that third position, it is a home race for the Jensen Button team. It is also a home race for Andretti United too, effectively. Will there be a hometown advantage? Probably not, because this kind of mud is a little ridiculous, to be honest, and anything can happen. You start putting all different cars out on track at the same time, and it will just be a luck of the draw in terms of the different lines. We've seen already in free practice today, Michael, just how slidey it is, but in terms of trying to get into certain corners, you can see the driver putting the effort into trying to get the car into a certain place, but the reel will just step out and go its own direction.
Yes.
And that times 5 is just going to cause a lot of interesting stuff. I just wonder, and we're talking about strategy and that the mandate of, I suppose, of when the females versus the males are driving in terms of the final. But I wonder if the strategy then comes into play around how you position yourself on the track, because it might not be track position necessarily being the best thing. You could be out front and being taken out from behind. It might be that being in that third or fourth position going into the first couple of corners might be a bit more beneficial for you because something might happen up the front, or at least you might see something happen that you won't then do similarly as well. Just something so much to play for, of course, when it comes to the semi-finals, where we'll actually see that wheel-to-wheel, door-to-door, mud-to-mud soaked boots of drivers racing.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think that's a really good point. Strategic-wise, if you're in a close battle, it might be better to hang back to see what happens ahead of you, especially, of course, the final race now, 5 cars in it, a lot of cars for a relatively narrow track in parts. It's going to be really fascinating to see how they approach this race, the last race of the season, the last race of the year, really, for everybody. It's going to go out with a bit of a bang, and the championship is going to be decided this weekend. But speaking of the track, let's talk to our championship drivers. Let's bring them in just a second to see how they've assessed things. They've had a bird's eye view of this entire course and how they think this weekend's going to be run. It's Timo Scheider and Tamara Molinaro. Here we are at the Jurassic X-Prix, on the ground for the Jurassic X-Prix, in the mud for the Jurassic X-Prix.
How many times can we say that on one podcast?
I'm in a lot of mud. I got a lot of mud on me. I'm going to do a lot of washing after this. It's a pleasure to be joined as well here by the championship drivers and the course designer, Timo Scheider and Tamara Molinaro. Welcome to Extreme E Off Track. First of all, Timo, what were you thinking when you designed this track?
Honestly, first time ever, I haven't designed anything on this track.
Former track designer, Timo Scheider.
Yeah, right.
No, basically they sent me to Saudi Arabia for next year already at the time when they've had the recce for this one. So basically Tamara was more in charge of this one than I was. And as well, like Guy Nichols, who is taking care about the areas and stuff. So I had my first laps right now. So, but I still like it. I have to say, even though I haven't done it, it's not too bad.
It's incredible. Well, then, Tamara, looking at this circuit, I mean, the focus point is the knife's edge, as we're coming to call it. That is it must be amongst the biggest jump, at least in Saudi Arabia. How do you expect teams are going to be tackling that? Because we've already seen in practice quite a divergence of approaches for this one.
Well, so the first lie was said by Timo. So I didn't design the track. So I landed here and I drove it.
It's not as bad.
It was here already. It was already it is. So
The marshals just put some flags around.
that's exactly
Is this
what
just someone's farm? Are we allowed to be here?
Somehow we have to point the finger to someone, right?
Yes.
I don't want fingers to be pointed at me. So
Okay. When it's good, it's me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, for sure, the knife edge is the biggest attraction of the weekend, I would say. I don't know what's the best strategy for it because you jump really high. So obviously you have to consider that when you jump high, you lose time because you don't go much forward, but just high. So I don't know if maybe it's best to find, halfway so that you can still jump and go further, but not lose too much time in the air and you can go back on full power. And yeah, as you said, I mean, we saw already some spectacular videos from free practice. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to find a balance, but yeah, you for sure have to find it.
Well, I mean, this is a very different course, isn't it, to compare to any of the courses we've been to this year, especially because you didn't design it. But I mean, from a Sardinian point of view,
might be the best one.
Maybe, and if it is, then Tamara should take the credit, I think, for that. Just anyway, but compared to, of course, with Sardinia, the wheel-to-wheel racing, we saw the first real drama that we've seen in Extreme E with the contact between Seki TV Chip Ganassi into Andrea United into X44, which caused all kinds of issues. And that was because of big rocks and sort of the pathway from the beginning there's only one direction that you can go, but so much mud. And it's all going to be controlling the car as best as you can. But what do you think will happen when we start putting 5 cars on the track together? Is it just going to be absolute mayhem?
To be honest, well, it's just a short time till turn 1, let's say, and you have to go in that single trail right away, and somehow you have to sneak in, best case as a leader, but like we probably have seen already, or some of you have seen already, is that from the start line you are starting actually on deep mud and soft compound, and actually I don't know what the target is. Well, for sure the target is to be first out there, but it's very tricky to get the power on the ground and to have the traction out there, but this is another challenge, and it's extreme, so we should not complain about anything.
No, we won't. We're not out there. I want to be a bit, and my shoes are living to tell the tale. What about strategy for this race? Because it feels almost like, in a sense, the opposite of Saudi Arabia. We had a lot of sand in Saudi, and it was important to be first. Obviously, it's important to be first to win, but important to be first throughout the race. Do you feel like it's going to be another situation where there's going to be a lot of premium on leading through that first corner to avoid the mud spray?
Well, yeah, of course, that's also something that could be tricky. And I mean, when you're leading, everything is always easier. You know, of course, you feel the pressure, but you know, when you're first, you have more confidence as well. And here, there are not so many places where you can overtake, so that's also something to keep in mind. But yeah, I mean, you have to hope that the wipers work in a good way for sure.
The championship is obviously being decided this weekend, and of course Rosberg X Racing and X44 are up the very front. But I'd like to talk a little bit further down the back of the championship standings, because there's some incredible talent, of course, and teams all the way down the back, starting with Excite Energy Racing, of course, and then you've got others like Apt Cooper as well, who had a magnificent result last time around and had a terrible start, it's fair to say, with Jutta Kleinschmidt not even getting away with the rest of the cars, but that ended up being totally fine for her as she sailed past the others. But talk to us about your thoughts on that sort of mid to backpack, because there's always an opportunity for any of those cars to even win the event this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we have seen a lot of drama already throughout the season. And of course, even some of the guys in the ranking are down in the ranking or midfield of the ranking. They are super quick as well. In the end, the full package has to fit together somehow. And unfortunately, we have seen some of the car issues. We have seen some driver mistakes and failures. Like some guys have been pushing by way too hard, or Jutta was just forgetting to put the car in gear. So for sure, this is not helping, of course. But you know. Yeah, to win a championship, you have to get every single piece and every little single piece together to make it happen. And this is not easy, you know. This is pressure. There are sponsors and team and yourself giving you pressure. And for sure, this is the key factor to be successful.
Interested to get your take as well. We've talked about this a little bit already, but the format for this weekend is changing a little bit. The track is relatively short, so it's 3 laps per session, per idea. But also the idea that the drivers will not be chosen this weekend. There's a set format, which means that the final will mandatorily start with the female drivers at the beginning, ending with the male, and vice versa for each preceding session. How do you think that's going to affect, or is it a neutralizing thing, I suppose, that there's no strategy involved now for teams in terms of who gets to start? Is that going to help some teams, do you suspect, or hinder some others?
Well, for sure, it's more interesting because, yeah, like you said, I mean, there's no strategy this weekend. So it's literally, the biggest difference will be made by the female, which will do 2 laps in the final. So will be more of a battle between the girls. But yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting to see. It's nice to see the championship decider going this way this weekend. So yeah, will be interesting.
So who's your pick then? Can I be brave enough to ask, or because I keep asking everyone?
Yeah, no one's answered it yet.
Alejandro Agag didn't really answer. Had the commentators, they didn't really answer. We've answered.
Yes.
We've picked teams. Michael is thinking RXR because he's Australian and he can't help himself.
And you also think RXR because you're Australian.
I think X44 deserves some luck. I think they've had the pace in terms of qualifying. They've just not had that result on race day. Yeah. And I mean, it just also helps for the podcast that we just take sides. but from your point of view, though, Timo, to talk us through who you think will win the championship, but also is there a team you think this weekend that like Segi TV Chip Ganassi that might really suit this kind of track?
Well, I think my money would be on the Rosberg guys, I have to say. I know Johan very well from World Rallycross. I know him from different other stuff. And I know he's super smart in managing a race. And I think this is also one of the key factors why they are there. And even though if they haven't had the speed and the performance to win a race, they're clever enough to catch the points, to bring it home. And Molly is as well a super talented female driver. So I think the package is very difficult to beat. Even though they are maybe sometimes not the quickest, but the most clever team and driver lineup. This is what my stomach feeling tells me. But I would love to see probably the X44 guys winning the race even. The Ganassi guys, of course, I have so much sympathy for those guys. Unfortunately, in Sardinia, they have been leading by 40 seconds and suddenly the suspension collapsed. So for sure, this is heartbreaking in a way, but I would love to see them winning just from the sympathy in the paddock. I would go for Ganassi for this weekend, but my money would be on RXR.
What do you think tomorrow?
Well, for the championship, I think there's no question. And, I mean, they have quite a bit of advantage. So, touching wood, I think the championship is really in their hands at the moment. For the race, I don't know. I think even from what we see in free practice, I mean, of course, it's not competitive, but, every time a driver gets in the car, we just want to go fast every time. I would say that X44 will win this race. I don't know. Just feeling in my belly. And I mean, they've been super quick in every event. So I think they kind of deserve it, But like Timo said, I mean, there are really some other really fast guys in the field that haven't had the luck to actually win an event, but they definitely have the pace. So yeah, I think it would be nice to see somebody, somebody else win.
Most decisive answers we've had in weeks.
I'm glad to be here for it, to be honest. Yes.
Glad to be here. No pressure applied, it should be emphasised by us on this.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Absolutely free answers. Well, look, it's a great track, even if no one wants to own up to designing it. I'll go and thank the local farmer who owns the land or whatever's going on. Because they did a great job. I don't know what you guys have been doing, but they did a great job.
The Armoured Corps guys in the British Army are doing a fabulous job, yes.
Yes, well, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you and good luck for the rest of the weekend, whatever you do.
I guess the Beavers have done the track, right? They brought all the way from Scotland down here to make the track.
Ties in, that's the surprise. Well, that's the driver's take on what's to happen this weekend for the Jurassic X-Prix, but it is an absolute bloody pleasure to be sitting across from the lead commentators for the series, Andrew Coley, Jenny Gow. G'day, guys. How you doing?
Oh, g'day, Cobber.
There it is.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, it's not a video podcast. You don't need to do the formalities there. It's just audio.
Do you have any shrimp?
No, we have plenty of prawns though.
That's a shame because I wanted to put some shrimps on the barbie.
Yeah.
Not really Barbie weather.
We'll spend the next 15 minutes just correcting all the Australianisms. We don't drink Fosters.
Yes.
There's no such thing as shrimps in Australia. It's only exclusively prawns.
You're literally wearing a hat with corks on it.
I know. But also, that's not a knife. This is a knife. But that's not really what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about extreme heat, probably. I don't know. We probably should talk a little bit about it.
We talk about corks on hats and knives and crocodiles. It's fine. We're good.
Well, look, the heating in this trailer is to make us feel like we're in Australia
exactly.
rather than outside. You're welcome. It's exclusively the entire reason why we're recording in here. But guys, this weekend, of course, it's the final round of the 5-round championship. You guys have been doing it since day one. You've had an understanding of all the drivers, some of them in previous lives, of course, with you, Andrew, with your rallycross background as well, and single-seaters like you, Jenny, and of course, Jamie Chadwick had a fantastic result this year, didn't she, in that space. But I want to pick your brains around this final round. We've just come from seeing the track and seeing some free practice. It's very bloody muddy out there, isn't it? Andrew, what do you think's going to happen this weekend?
People are going to slide a lot. So me and Jenny have seen an onboard of the track, which was one of Timo Scheider's recce laps. So we've had a look at that. My first impression is whether it was super narrow. It's not quite as narrow as I thought. It's a couple of cars wide in most places, but passing opportunities are a little bit thin on the ground. Having said that, grip is even thinner on the ground. It is a quagmire out there. So I'm expecting mistakes. We've seen mistakes already. There's a huge jump, which we've just seen Sarah Price launch to the moon over. And I think mistakes will be the key to passing. So you've got to pressurise the person in front into making a mistake, or potentially just give them a little nudge. In these conditions, a tiny nudge will open the door a long, long way, and then it comes down to whether or not the stewards think that's okay.
It's going to be hard, though, to get the opportunity to do that tiny nudge and pressurise somebody, because like at the very first rounds in Saudi, you had a problem following because of the sand. Well, here you're going to have a problem following because of visibility, and it's just like being up behind someone on a motorway where there's loads of spray and you can see nada.
Brown spray.
Yeah.
It's thick. It's a tank proving ground here. We're at a tank proving ground. Like it. Yeah, I mean it's muddy. It's really muddy.
It has Timo Scheider's signature all over it, I feel, doesn't it? I can just see him grinning behind his crash helmet as he was driving around just before as well.
I just saw him drive off to do a ride with somebody in the car, and he was grinning. So yeah, I mean they say the conditions are changing out there already, and we've only had a few cars around the track this afternoon. I think what you said about the visibility, I think the nudge may well come from the fact you can't see the car in front. Remember the wiper issues in Sardinia? There cannot be any wiper issues here. And interestingly, I spoke to Johan a minute ago. There's 40 seconds of water in the wiper squirter. So to give you a little bit of colour on that, a rallycross car has 4 to 5 litres of water for a under 4-minute race. An Extreme E car has 1.5 litres of water. And Johan said when he first saw the car, can we make that bottle any bigger? It's not any bigger.
Is that why you get paid the big bucks? Because you know stuff like that.
It's Johan that gets paid the big bucks. But I love that. But that's what I like about being here. You know, being here and just talking to the drivers, hearing that little bit of extra info. He said the visibility will be exactly what you said, Jenny, horrendous.
Yeah. Jenny, there's plenty of action down towards the back of the championship as well. I mean, obviously the attention's on X44 and Rosberg X Racing. There's been a hell of a lot of bad luck for a lot of teams like Excite Energy, of course, like Segi TV Chip Ganassi, that was on for an absolute bloody deserved win that fell away from them last time around in Sardinia. What do you think about that mid-pack fight? And, of course, there's only 1 point, isn't there, between JBXE and between them and Andretti United?
There's a lot of close battles, actually, if you look up and down the championship standings. But even then, in a 5-race series, I feel like there's actually quite a lot of personal battles out there as well. There's a lot of grudge matches. There's also a lot of personal pride out there. You know, Chip Ganassi, oh my gosh, they so need a weekend to come together for them, because last time out I felt the tears welling up in my ducts because the story was just so sad. And I don't want it to be sad anymore. I want it to be joyful and delicious and delightful. And as you've seen, we've just seen Sarah Price go over the jump, and my word, like she carried some speed. And they've got to not total the car. Like this is them just going out for a bit of a recce, having a little look, and already she's like going at 65 over the hill and the crest, and she's coming down and boom. Yeah. You know, I feel like I want to say to them, just go steady. Just start steady.
Talking to Kyle, he said that the plan is to approach the weekend differently, and I think that the teams. Some of the teams have been quite smart about the way they've gone about things, in that they know there might be an issue with the car. Just qualify for the final, which is what we've spoken about on air a few times. Just get to the final, then take the risk. You know, risk it for a biscuit when if you retire, you're ready in the final. If you risk it in Q1 and you end up in the crazy race and then you don't make the final, that sucks. So, but the approach to this weekend, I don't know, it just with the mud and the starts, that you're going to have to risk it. Obviously, qualifying, I suppose, one car at a time doesn't matter so much. So slippery though.
It's like, so I was actually out on the test track on Tuesday, and it was such a great privilege to get into an Extreme E car. It's my first time in the Odyssey 21. I was next to Molly Taylor. Unfortunately, didn't get to drive. The insurance documents clearly did not go that far. But yeah, her and also Katie Munnings I was speaking to, and they were saying it's just like being on ice. It's so slippery out there, and it's always changing. So no lap will ever be the same. And we did about 20 laps around a very small track. This is going to be so tough, and I think they're going to need to watch the action whenever they're not on track. They'll need to be glued to the TV so that they can see, okay, how is it developing? What are the cars doing? What can I learn from every run out there? Because it's not just about what you do in a car this weekend, it's about what everybody else is doing.
Where are the slippery bits as well? Like just watching there's a couple of mid-speed corners where if you don't get it turned in, you will be in the bushes really quickly. And by bushes, we're talking small trees, we're talking a lot of damage. I think where the track's narrow in places, there is a chance of a red flag. If somebody has a biggie, and I don't know they'll block it, but you know what I mean? The characteristics of the track, but it looks fun, on the flip side, it does look fun. But, in my head, I'm just running over what I guess the drivers will be running over, which what are the challenges? And it's grip, it's visibility, it's not going off in the conditions. They'll be doing the same as we're doing here, which is just sort of trying to figure out what's squaning.
I've seen the slippery bits. I did a track walk. It's all of the track. So just be assured about that. That's
100%.
Can I ask you a question then?
Yes, please.
Did you fall over on the track walk?
I didn't, but my track walk lasted only 100 metres. And as James has told me, a lot of them was going back and forth trying to find a way without going knee deep into the mud.
Okay, that's not a track walk then.
Well, it was on the track.
He walked on the track. Jenny, you were just talking. What was the dude from Apt Cooper just saying to you about his welly boots?
Oh, yeah, we were just talking about strategy-wise, because obviously I come from single-seater racing. Formula One, it's all very precise. If the drivers have like a speck of water on their shoes, they're going to wipe them before they get in.
There are no welly boots.
There are no welly boots. And they're coming up with like novel approaches to how to keep the driver's shoes clean and dry as much as they can and mud-free. And they've gone out to like whatever shops they've seen on the way here, like JD Sport or like the fishing tackle place that's just down the road in Weymouth, to try and find solutions. So I think even one of them had like, the shoes that you put on to go into the sea or the river, like little like slipper cups with a bit of suction on them. They had those that they're trying out. They didn't work out. Nothing works. It's a quagmire out there. If you've ever been for a country walk and you've lost your boot in the mud and then you've ended up taking another step, the boot stays behind you and you end up walking into the mud with your sock. That's what it's like. So it's going to be really tough. The switch zone is going to be carnage. Yeah. Everybody's going to be falling A over T, and it's just going to be a mess.
It's a foot deep, at least.
Yeah. I've seen plastic bags experimented with as well over the course of practice on Thursday, which was very exciting.
I'm fascinated by the fact none of them got overshoes. I had overshoes.
They don't work.
Why?
They've got overshoes, but they're really thin, aren't they, overshoes?
Yeah, but like...
And they just come... Like, when I was with Molly, she had her overshoes on. And all you can do, you can feel like this layer of grit and slime and squishiness in between the little protector that you've got. They're just not robust. They're not made for...
a tank testing.
It's weird. It's so weird, isn't it?
Surely the military's got a version. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Didn't NASA invent the ballpoint pen? There must be a military
and Velcro,
exactly.
Yeah. The version for the military is they just don't get out. They stay in the tank.
They invented the tank.
But this is why people listen to this podcast, Shoe Talk. Fresh straight to your ears. But look, guys, I want to get your take, your hot tip on who you think's going to take the inaugural championship, of course. I mean, it's so close, and I hate to put you in this position, not really, but everyone who's spoken to, including Alejandro, I've asked the question. So, Jenny, let's start with you.
What did Alejandro say?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh.
It was very politically correct. He worked his way out of answering. Yes. But who do you think?
Ex-politician.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, if I look at mic cables, then Andrew has the X44 purple mic lead. Yes. I have the Axiona Science red mic lead. Can I read anything into that? Not a jot.
You bought some time though.
Yeah, look, I'm desperately swimming around in the mud trying to work out what to say to you, because I think... clearly on Saturday performance, you could say X44 have been impeccable. They have really got a lot of points and accrued those points because they've been so good on pace. But when it comes to race day, it's not gone well for them. Whereas I think we can all see that RXR have had the Sunday pace. They just haven't qualified as well. Which counts for the most this weekend? Let's see.
What do you reckon, mate?
Big gap between the two, isn't there? Relatively speaking. Obviously, Saturday night, we'll know a bit more after qualifying as to whether if the gap stays as it is, really, it's RXR's to lose. It's if somebody has a shocker. That's the thing for me, is do you have a shocker? Do you slide off? Is this the event where you get unlucky and get a puncture or broken steering? Steering has been massively upgraded for this one. Just been talking to Carla Duke. New pumps, new hoses, new steering arms. So that's stage one of a 3-stage upgrade for next year. So I hope we don't see any of that. What I'd love to see, unlike other championships, is a good.
Here we go.
No, mate, do you know what? It's been. Think about it. We've had a draw in. F1 started with a draw at the last one. World RX finished with a draw. Nitro Rallycross finished with a draw. No more draws, because then we have to go. I haven't even thought about countback. We'll have to discuss that in the studio tomorrow. But I just want a good, clean race for the championship finale. It'd be mega to see them. Really go at it and somebody win it, and not to have reliability. You know what? Let's have them win it or lose it on talent, not on a rubbish puncture or something. You know.
I mean, in fairness, that's all we wanted from last week's F1 action as well.
Yeah. So I think it's all anybody wants. Well, the closer it is, the more unfair it always seems to be, doesn't it? Whether it's a random reliability thing or whatever. So in short, it's RXR's to lose, but these events are, as me and Jenny have said a million times, all about risk management. So watch for the teams choosing what that risk strategy is during the course of the weekend, and particularly keep an eye on the gap between X44 and RXR.
And of course, it doesn't mean they're going to win the actual event. Anyone can win. All of 9 teams. Excite Energy Racing could have an absolutely stellar weekend and be out in front. The reliability could play anything. It's so cool that's what it comes down to. We might not even see the championship leaders on the podium.
Yeah, and that doesn't matter. Yeah, they just need to win the series.
And in fairness, look at Ollie Bennett. This is his stomping ground. Like, literally, he lives within a stone's throw of here. So he's used to this weather. He might not be used to tank ranges so much, but, it rains a lot.
I was with Ollie 2 weeks ago in Florida for NRX, and I saw him this morning, and he walked up the stairs in his muddy boots. He goes, "It ain't Florida, is it, mate?" I was like, no, fair enough, but they obviously this is the only event we've been to. All joking aside, they've been to Saudi and Greenland and Senegal and Sardinia, and so they've seen all the weather and all the conditions, and it's quite fitting that we finished with something we haven't had yet. This is pretty much a full wet, full mud course. It's another challenge to the drivers and the engineers. And it should be a great weekend.
There's nothing clean about this track either, I think it's worth saying. So hopefully the racing stays cleaner than the circuit. And 2 beautifully diplomatic answers.
Yes.
No one wants to make predictions on this podcast.
Future politicians.
No one can at all.
Coley and Gal for Prime Minister. We'll get it sorted.
Thanks to our Extreme E TV commentators, Jenny Gow and Andrew Coley. You can listen to them, of course, throughout the course of the weekend, wherever your broadcast may be in your country or capital city. Go to the Extreme E website, go and find out the broadcast guide there, find out what time it is on, because you don't want to miss the finale, the championship decider of Extreme E, the Jurassic X-Prix.
So great, Michael, to be here in person, as we said right at the very top of this episode, sitting in front of Tamara and Timo, sitting in front of Andrew and Jenny. All of us really covered in mud, firstly, but just so excited to be here and just the vibe around the paddock. It's such a brilliant championship. Of course, we know we hear them for more than just the racing, but the racing itself has been so fantastic. The little bit of drama that happened last time around in the Island X-Prix, I think, looking around the track, that the drama is going to be amplified here. Just as I said, when you thought all the dramatic motorsport seasons were done, here comes Extreme yeeting its way into just before Christmas to be able to provide some excellent entertainment. And then, of course, it's only 8 weeks until the first round of the 2022 championship we'll get to think about as well. Yeah, absolutely fantastic to be here, Michael, isn't it?
Yes, it absolutely is. You do get the sense anything that goes wrong for a team is just going to be harder to deal with here because of that mud. Everything, extricating cars is going to be more difficult. There's nowhere clean to hang around. Everyone's going to be very muddy. Some people enjoy that, I guess.
Yes.
That's fine. If you thrive in that, then this is the sport for you. Come and get a job.
Absolutely. And look, we've got some fantastic chats that we've been having off mic, but some fantastic chats we've been having on mic too. And as we hear, we're recording some episodes for your listening pleasure. Of course, there is one more podcast to come for this year, and that will be our review of the championship, which will come out shortly afterwards, after it all plays out. Can't wait to be able to do that. But of course, make sure you're subscribed to the Extreme E podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And a massive shout out to you on Apple Podcasts if you've taken the time to leave us a rating or a review. We really, really love it. Of course, you can also see ugly mugs on TikTok.
Yes.
It's a bit of a thing. We're doing TikTok live this weekend, and we're very, very happy to be part of that. So if you're on TikTok, make sure you subscribe to Extreme E there as well. So much great content all weekend. Worthwhile checking out all the individual teams pages too. Absolutely, Christine GZ standing in wellies or gumboots in water is probably my highlight of the content.
Yes, it sounds very boring when you say it, but it's very exciting to see how she discovers the concept of waterproofing.
Oh, fabulous stuff. Absolutely fabulous stuff. Well, mate, it's all to play for, of course. Can't wait for this. And as we said, make sure you check out all of the broadcasts, extreme-e.com. You'll be able to find anywhere you can watch it, wherever you are in the world. But it is time to say goodbye. We'll see you for the review podcast in only a couple of days' time.
Can't wait.